2025 started with one of the slowest stretches of 6 months we've seen in some time. I mentioned in last year's video how the industry has been hit by a AAA crash, what with the general attitude of the community and the copious amounts of layoffs, and this year, I think we're starting to really feel the effects of all that. There were only a handful of noteworthy games in the first half, such as Expedition 33, Pirates in Hawaii, or Deltarune. Otherwise, ports and remasters as far as the eye can see, and a lot of garbage. It seems every major company had some kind of nonsense going on this year. Nintendo had a fairly solid first 6 months with the Switch 2's launch. Maybe not their best, but you have to give them props for having multiple exclusives in a time where that's considered an accomplishment for some reason. This came with the caveat, however, of them not only jumping on the $70 game bandwagon, but charging a whopping $80 for Mario Kart. Like, slow down, Nintendo. This ain't the 90s anymore. We can't just rent games we can't afford like we used to. Sony decided the already overpriced PS5 Pro wasn't expensive enough and charged another $50. I'm not saying the console should be cheaper, I'm saying they shouldn't have made it in the first place. And then there's Microsoft, who seems to be gunning for the title of worst gaming company right now. Getting deeper into it would probably pad out the video a lot, so here's a few bullet points. So yeah, I'm not exactly optimistic about what happened this year, especially with the aforementioned drought the first half gave us. That said, it really gave me some time to work on my backlog. I finally gave the Crash Bandicoot series a try this year. None of them made my list, but I thought they were pretty damn good for the most part. Except the first one, that was hot garbage. Some of the shit these games expect you to do for full completion would make Rareware blush. Then after July, suddenly everything was coming out. There was Metal Gear Solid Delta, Pac-Man World 2, Pokemon Legends ZA, Square Enix with the remakes of Dragon Quest 1 and 2, Metroid Prime 4 was finally released. It's like, slow the fuck down, I can't keep track of all of you. Fucking Silk Song came out! Then I didn't play because I haven't played Hollow Knight yet. I really didn't have a lot of time to play the copious amounts of games released in the fall. As for what I did play, well, that's what the list is for. Even if like half of it was released before 2025. Thanks to the Pixel Remaster series, I was finally able to play the NES Final Fantasy games in a way I found digestible, using the boost function to stop grinding from being a chore. Among the trilogy, it was Final Fantasy III that stood out the most to me. The job system offered tons of formation creativity, and while the story was very simple, it still had a lot of fun moments. That said, the Crystal Tower can go fuck itself. This shit is some of the most painful dungeon crawling I've ever done. To be perfectly honest, I initially had no intention of including this one on my list. However, I felt the need to make a special exception for it since it was the very last game I played in the company of my adorable best friend Sage. Thanks for all the time you spent with me, buddy. Okami was a bit of a slow burn for me. I took a couple week-long breaks in the middle for reasons I can't quite remember. I think I just wasn't in the headspace for a 40-hour adventure game at the time. Do not let this trick you into thinking I didn't like it. I mean, it's on the list after all. This game's art direction is stunning. I've never played a game with a traditional ink brush style before, but the fact that it works this well in a 3D space on the PS2 astounds me. My favorite thing about this game was the brush mechanic. You can attack enemies with it, create a gust of wind, and so much more that I can't show off because I'm using trailer footage. This was such a cool experience, and I can't wait to see how the upcoming sequel expands upon it. Wario Land 4 starts off pretty simple. You shoulder tackle enemies, solve puzzles, and obtain fat stacks of cash. But then you get to the end of the level, and suddenly it's time to book it. Get the fuck out of there now if you want to live! I think what makes Wario Land 4 really stand out is just how deranged it is. The sound design is deranged, the bosses are deranged, even Wario's sprite has a very deranged look about it. And this is in comparison to how he normally looks. But none of that compares to the nonsense I find myself saying in a bad Wario voice while playing this game. No! Wario forgot his EpiPen! Wario is a master of acupuncture! Wario doesn't have health insurance! This is the second year in a row that a Sonic game has completely exceeded my expectations. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is the perfect hybrid between a party kart racer and a traditional arcade racer. It takes tons of inspiration from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in its design, but the game feel is more similar to the likes of Outrun 2006. But I'd expect nothing less from the team behind the initial D arcade games, which includes some of the vets behind the original Sega Rally, and it's got both cars as well as extreme gear. I wasn't a fan of Team Sonic Racing or Sonic Riders, and even the Sega All-Stars games had a few aspects that irk me, but this right here is a damn good racing game. It's got a lot of memorable courses, drifting feels great, it's got Hatsune Miku riding a hoverboard, and there are tons of ways to customize your vehicles. No, I've mostly just changed the colors to ones I personally feel suit the characters better. The real highlight of this game for me though would have to be the character banter. There is some glorious dialogue in this game.
I hear you're pretty smart. Do you know much about fish?
I have data on over 32,000 species of fish. How does this relate to our race?
You're from the future, right? You, wanna help me place a couple bets? What's the over-under on all this?
That'd be cheating. Even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you.
Were those fighting words? I honestly can't tell, but I bet they were.
It's not as hectic as Ring Racers, nor does it have nearly as interesting of an item selection, but it's easily more accessible to newcomers. And that's in spite of the fact that Crossworlds is a whopping $70 while Ring Racers is free to play and could probably run on a Windows XP. My only major issue is that I can't play online, and that has less to do with the game itself and more to do with the fact that I'm not willing to spend $80 on PS Plus. On top of Miku, it's got a number of guests from other Sega games, with more to come in the future at no additional charge. So my personal hopes for guest characters include Arl, Ney, the Gunstars, Arl, Akira, Sakura, Arl, classic skins for every Sonic character with a classic design including the Chaotix, Arl, the Daytona USA Hornet, and Shezo, with enough fully voiced dialogue to affect the game's age rating. For countless millennia, mankind has yearned for a game that can fulfill their greatest desire to roll up everything in sight into a massive ball and then chuck it into space. The Katamari series has been on my radar since I was a child, and it wouldn't be until this year that I finally got around to playing it, and I had one hell of a time. I love score attack games. Nothing urges me to replay a game as often as possible, quite like encouragement to keep trying and improve. They tell me I can do better, so I got it, damn it! On top of that, this game also comes with a cathartic feeling of rolling up everything I possibly can, hyping me with the bigger stuff that I can't quite get just yet, but once I do, it's gonna make me feel great. It's like I'm playing Bowling 2, and on top of that, it has an absolutely killer soundtrack. Both of the PS2 games are worthy of going on here, but We Love Katamari comes out on top just because of the sheer variety of missions there are that never detract from the game's core loop. That and it has a retry button while the first game didn't, so... My experience with the Shinobi series could best be described as... Yeah, I think you could say I've had a hard time getting into this series, but the latest title, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, is the one to finally change that. To put it simply, this game is fucking awesome! The ultra-fluid control is the seasoning, and the meat is the combat. It feels so good to land combos in this game. You can feel the power of every single hit you land on these guys. When I knock these fuckers to the ground in midair, that's like 6 shots of espresso injected directly into my veins. Feels like I'm playing a fighting game sometimes. This game's a bit easier than most of the other Shinobi games, but make no mistake, it's tough. You'll still have to bring your A game, but it's lenient on checkpoints, and there are infinite lives. So you can keep trying and trying and trying until you finally bathe yourself in the catharsis of kicking this stupid piece of shit's fucking ass! Yes! The only real downsides are that there's only one level where you get to ride a dog, and it's super early in the game, so they dangle the concept in front of you before snatching it away forever. The other downside is that this game gave me some serious hand cramps from all the button mashing, but that might have to do with the fact that I was using a Saturn controller and the best button mapping I could come up with was still pretty awkward. But it was worth it to play it with a Sega D-pad. If you weren't sold on Shinobi before, give this one a try. There's a free demo you can check out. And Sega, I need you to work with Lizard Cube more often because they are 3 for 3 on this shit. It only took 11 years, but here comes Nintendo with what is quite possibly my favorite Mario Kart of all time. Alright, hold the phone, Evan. Didn't you just bitch about the price of that game? Are you seriously telling me you bought it anyway? Look, if I didn't buy it, it wouldn't be in my collection. Besides, I knew this game was worth the price as soon as I realized you could play as a dolphin riding a dolphin bike. Mario Kart 8 was already perfect, but now they've gone a step beyond by making one massive world map with all the tracks interconnected. Now, when you first look at this, you probably think to yourself it's just baby mode with all the straightaways. But the thing is, it completely changes the game, because now you need to make a better effort to watch your fucking back. Suddenly, there's a lot more room to get your ass blasted by a green shell, or give some dickhead tailing you a speed boost if you're not careful. On top of that, there's now 24 players, which can end up making every track feel like Baby Park. If you've fallen behind, now's your chance to play aggressively and make a comeback. Made it to the front? Then it's time to prove you can maintain your position. The tracks are as beautiful and well designed as ever, too. We got Salty Salty Speedway, DK Spaceport, Boost Cinema where you go into the fucking movie. It's all spectacular. However, my real favorite part of this game is free roam mode. I love to stick to a single road and see where I end up. Like these train tracks that take me from the desert all the way to the snowy mountains on the opposite corner of the map. All while an absolutely killer arrangement of a deep cut Mario song is playing that I've never heard before because this game's soundtrack is massive. This really does feel like the natural evolution of the kart racer, and I just know I'm going to be having fun with this one for years to come. Wait, Evan, didn't you play Yakuza 5 last year? How had you not played this until now? Yeah, so I started with Yakuza 1 on the PS2, jank and all. Then I played the rest in release order. And after finishing Yakuza 0, I must say I'm glad I went about it this way. While Yakuza 0's story doesn't require any prior knowledge to enjoy, you get a lot out of having played the other games first. Like the hotshot dancer from Osaka at the disco club? That's the pissed off dance instructor from Yakuza 5. And then of course there's Majima's whole flashback early on in the game being the main mystery of Saijima's story in Yakuza 4, which I'd imagine would take you out of it if you played 0 first. That said, if you're only going to play one game in the series, Yakuza 0 is one of the better choices. This is easily one of the best stories in the series up to this point. It's not a convoluted mess like 4 or 5 were, and the character moments here are exceptionally strong. But let's say you don't care about the story. Well, fortunately, this is a Like a Dragon game after all, so there's plenty else here. You could race toy cars, you could make a fortune in real estate with a chicken manager and spend all the profits on parts for racing toy cars, or you could always just hit the arcade and play a different game. This one is Outrun. That's one of the best games ever. When all is said and done, the worst thing about this game is that they announced a director's cut when I was about 3/4 of the way through the original. This year gave us two of the best racing games I've ever played. And then Kirby Air Riders came along and crushed both of them into oblivion. Kirby Air Riders doesn't have a billion tracks. It doesn't have an open world to explore. It doesn't teleport you to an entirely different track at the end of a lap. It doesn't have an ultra user-friendly modding scene either. But it does give you the ability to make your wagon look like Jelly Jiggler from Bobobo Bobobo. This game offers exceptionally easy to understand controls that you can still do quite a bit with. Not only that, but it has a vehicle that's well suited for just about every playstyle. You got machines that can mow down the competition, machines that can conquer the sharpest of turns with ease, machines that are faster than lightning, or machines that can soar through the skies. And if that weren't enough, killing people makes your ride go faster. Every course in this game feels like an entire adventure, and this time around that adventure can be experienced with a number of different characters, like Susie or Rick. You can even play as a Starman. No. Yeah, that guy. But if you're still not satisfied, you should take your friends to City Trial, where you hop on whatever vehicle you can find and collect stat boosters to beef your machine up into an unstoppable force the likes of which racing games have never seen. And then lose everything because you chose to focus on gliding upgrades only to get your ride destroyed at the last minute and scramble to find whatever you could get before time runs out, which ended up being the scooter that doesn't fly. It's pure, unfiltered chaos. While I was chipping away at my backlog, I decided to finally play the mainline Donkey Kong games. Now, I had already played the arcade games, DK94, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the SNES trilogy, and Jungle Beat multiple times in the past, but Donkey Kong 64 always felt like a hurdle as tall as the Empire State Building that I had to jump over before I could play the Retro Studios games. What can I say? I'm a stickler for playing things in release order. Jungle Beat's an exception because I played that as a kid. But after all these years of fearing it, I finally played Donkey Kong 64. And you know what? It didn't make the list. But now that I beat it, I could finally play the rest of the series, and it was all uphill from there. In fact, I was originally going to put Tropical Freeze on the list because that is a stellar game, but then Nintendo came along with Donkey Kong Bonanza. This game is Super Mario Odyssey taken to its logical extreme. A bunch of big open areas with hundreds of MacGuffins to grab, but now you can freely destroy and mold almost any terrain to your liking. This gives you two ways to play the game. Do you get the golden banana the correct way and complete the platforming challenges designed? Or do you just dig your way to the goal instead? Or maybe you instead spend 7 years building a sand bridge to get it. Sky's the limit. Now I'm gonna start getting into spoilers here. I won't be going into a ton of detail, but I figured I'd give you the warning anyway. Alright, are they gone? Okay. Holy fuck, it's King K. Rool! He's finally back after all these years! And the golden skeleton enemies are now his own goons and they make the fucking noise when you kill them! And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not sharing what happens next because the endgame gets so much crazier from there that you really need to see it for yourself. This game is incredible! This is the game to buy a Switch 2 for right now, so you better fucking play it. Games this good are few and far between.